So, think we might as well get started, and anyone that's not here snoozes so they lose. Though, admittedly, I'm not sure if Corey's suggestion was a topic for discussion. Might just have been more of a ask the community their opinion and vote on something quickly that could be easily
User joined
sorted.
your channel. User joined your channel.
All right.
User joined your channel.
Is Corey here? No, he's not. Well, if he was here, I could at least elaborate on this, though Biscuits isn't here either. Neither.
User joined your channel.
Johnson. Oh boy. Well, being unsure if Corey's was actually something needing discussion or just a vote, I think we start with Biscuits' topic.
Joined your channel.
I need to disable the sound pack because that's going to be... There we go. Okay, we will start with a Biscuits topic. Discuss the idea of changing the yes/no options for CCE voting in the spreadsheet round to an out of 10 approach for a valid suggestion. For example, please, out of 10, vote for the removal of heli spawns, 10 being remove all helis, 5 being one heli on the map at a time, a middle ground if necessary, and 1 being hate the change, no way. Anything that averages over 8 gets implemented fully, 6 to 8 middle ground if present gets implemented, and anything under that fails the vote. This way, people who are on the fence about a change or don't care about the change enough can vote down the middle or vote 4 or 6 if they slightly lean one way. Discussions are also had about a middle ground on some suggestions, but then people can't vote on that middle ground, and interesting ideas that could work just die. Of course, it's the usual kind of formula. If there is a discussion going on and you'd like to throw your hat in the ring, please put a Q. Oh god. A Q in the chat like that. But until then, until we have a discussion rolling, anyone is free to interject. If anyone has anything to say on this. We have quite a bit talking about the CCE to start us off with. Does anyone have anything they'd want to say about this topic? If not, then we, I guess, move on to the next one.
I personally think that there is a lot of initiative when it comes to the community discussing changes. When a CC suggestion is brought to its discussion stage. So I've seen a lot of suggestions get argued down to a middle ground just by themselves in their own discussion. So I don't know if changing the voting system is necessary when people can just talk it over, figure out a middle ground that everybody likes, and then that will go on as the suggestion from them to go be voted on.
That's true,
I
yeah.
think it's not necessary.
I've seen there's quite a lot of hefty discussion on a lot of the CCE topics that I've seen, so it does feel a bit of a fluff suggestion, and I suppose it was posted a fair while ago, over a month ago. Buck?
I don't know. I feel like a lot of the CCE problems are due to either I've noticed there is more automation now, and I think that that's probably a good thing. But just the lack of basically required participation from people, uh, and the automation should help that. And sort of the tyranny of democracy, where people vote for something or don't vote for something, they still need to participate, and participation is more important than the structure of it. Whatever automation needs to be done to get people to participate, or whatever incentives need to be levied to get people to participate, are more important than any of the structure to it.
This is true, and that kind of leans into our next topic from Johnson as well. So I guess we can kind of knock out two birds in one stone, unless anyone has anything specific they want to say on Biscuit's topic. Then we can tie in Johnson's one, which is discuss why representatives are not voting for the CCE and how we can remedy that, preferably without changing how the CCE operates. Does anyone have any thoughts about that? Any thoughts about both of them? I guess this is mostly aimed at CCE representatives. So, why are you not voting? Rax Shotgun. I mean, I'm also a CCE voter as of a month ago or something, but I don't think any votes have came up since I ascended, if you will. Wolf?
Well, less of a question, I guess, but voting or not voting is something I guess that you guys should consider as important as keeping your roster updated with whoever's whitelisted, whoever can make armbands, whoever can be on it properly. When it comes to groups and factions, it's an important thing. It helps us uh, not only obviously push these votes out, but have a good eye on how things are happening. I think every faction and group leader or representative should keep in mind that moving forward, it's going to be pretty important to try and get everything in order when it comes to updating your roster constantly. We've had on multiple occasions people who are um, organizing and running the rosters, such as Lewis and other people from the staff team, mentioned that a lot of the rosters have been very neglected, not updated, just a lot of names on there with nothing properly formatted and things like that. You guys should, especially group and faction leaders, should make sure that your rosters are properly updated, make sure that the voting representatives are marked properly, and make sure that they are voting, especially when the time comes. I don't know how it goes now. I think people are getting pinged or something. If one of you is a CC rep or a group and faction leader, and you see that ping that a suggestion is coming to a close and needs voting on, if you see it and you vote on it, just reach out to the rest of your group or your faction and tell them that, or just give them a little reminder, because things like that are important when it comes to properly running the group or faction that you're a part of. It helps the whole community, it pushes these things forward. I don't see a reason why people shouldn't vote. I understand that a lot of people could be busy, a lot of people could not see the ping, a lot of people could have the Discord on mute, stuff like that. If you guys that are voting can help them out by reaching out to them and ask if you can vote, if you can go ahead and do that, or just properly updating your roster and changing out that person, swapping them out, even for the current amount of time that they cannot vote for someone else who can, is going to help the process go along a lot smoother and a lot faster. So please do that and keep your rosters updated as well.
Well said. I don't think I could have said it any better my fucking self. There's no point in this CCE and us being able to vote on our fates if no one's fucking doing it. So, yeah. Buck?
I feel like one of the outdated things that's set up with the old faction system is like having the group leader manage the roster, and by like, so it makes sense to have the group leader manage the voting and like who's an active voter or not. But I think that doesn't necessarily need to be the case. I think group leaders should kind of lean on their group. Anyone who's actually willing to do the roster or manage the people voting and stuff, as long as it gets done, I think it's more important than just the group leader doing it, because a group leader is not always necessarily active. Some groups on Doug, especially the longer established ones, inactivity happens, and people should be willing to delegate responsibilities like that.
Ash, if you're done, Buck.
Yeah.
Ash is still muted.
Sorry. So I know I'm kind of like newer to being a rep, but when I was looking in like the CCE suggestions, like I went to like I had talked to Wolf about this actually. So I had gone to like vote, and then like I guess it was in stage 2, but to be honest, like I didn't really know like it was in stage 1 in the first place, like when that happened, because I would have gone in and voted, you know what I mean? So I don't know if it would be possible to maybe get like a ping or something if it's in stage 1, because I asked other people that are reps in my group and they also didn't receive any pings or anything. So we didn't know, you know?
Yeah, I think faction and group like leaders and stuff get pings when things go up, but obviously I guess if that's not getting passed on, then that could be the root of our issue. Also, Wolf.
Going back to what Bug said, yeah, it is not ideal to just lean on like a certain person or two when it comes to group and faction leaders, to like solely delegate and manage who's voting and that they are voting and stuff like that. But things can always be more lenient in that way, like all the members who can't vote or all the members who want to vote instead of people who are inactive, especially if like the group and faction leaders are inactive and can't manage the roster, don't have the time to manage the roster, there is always the option to just hand over the roster to someone else trusted in your group so they can manage it, or DM and message an admin or a moderator, and they will swap out all the people that are necessary with the new people that can vote, swap out the inactive people from CCU reps and stuff like that. So if you are having trouble not being able to vote, or having people from your faction just not around or inactive, then just feel free to reach out to either your group and faction leader if they can do the changes and swap them out for themselves. If they're inactive, then feel free to message a admin or a moderator, and we'll just take care of that so nothing gets stuck and nothing like so the things actually keep going and you guys are able to vote in the completely as 5 reps or 2 gaff leaders or whatever you need.
Rick is asking, are the 5 people with the checkmark ticks in the group sheet under the CC automatically able to vote? I'm guessing that's how the... I'm not familiar with it personally, but I'm guessing that's how the CCE reps are like denoted in the roster. If that's something you know more about, Wolf, or even Desync. Which I'd assume so.
I'm unsure myself. Desync, do you know?
As far as I'm aware, if you are marked as CCE in your roster, that's just to show that's all 5. But if you are group and faction representative, and you would also be a part of that CCE, you're the first 2. So as Solus had said there, stage 2 is the Reddit post that happens once a month. Stage 1 happens for each topic in CC discussion, and only the 2 GAF reps vote. And then once it's in stage 2, the other 3 hop in as well. Correct me if I'm wrong with that.
That sounds about right.
100%. Yeah.
I might have misread the question, but I think they might have also been asking if the people who are checked as CCE reps in the roster automatically are able to do the voting, and we or the staff team on your side don't have to like do anything extra alongside them actually doing it themselves.
Yep, that was the misconception. Yeah, so she hasn't actually missed any votes. So you're good there, Ash. It would have strictly been Zippy and the other, whoever else he has with him for that.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Thank you guys for clarifying that.
Yeah, for instance, we had a vote in May 2023 from Diesel made a post, and he shows off, hey, this is what's going to be voted for, and then he gives you a Google form link to click and follow. And if you're registered to vote, that's the link you would use. Copy paste that as an example.
All right. Well, anyone have anything else they'd like to say on this topic, or should we move on to the next one? Oh, Solus, go ahead.
In a best case scenario, what I see a lot of the time, especially with the discussions and with the 7-day period it puts in, there's only been a few examples so far, so it might be nothing. But ultimately, the option for the votes go in, and then you give it more time because you want to see what maybe the rest of the community are voting for as well. And then the 7-day period is gone. I don't know if it's a question straight to Diesel or whoever might be able to manage the bot, but an additional ping, like the bot pings you once that the thread is locked, go ahead and vote. In 7 days, it'll do its thing. If you can code in one more additional ping, like a day prior when it does close, something small, just to get more buy-in. But I agree wholeheartedly with Buck in the end there. There needs to be things built in that aren't automated, because it's a litmus test for how well people are participating. And that's the question that I don't really have an answer for too. We need more people participating. That's it.
I'll pass this along to Diesel.
Anything else? Anyone else have anything they'd like to say? Because if not, we can move on to our next topic from the former Jerry / Nix. I don't know if they are here.
Jerry.
Right, there you go. Alright, well, if you'd like to read out your topic, it's the one just after Johnson's.
Right. So there are a lot of people come into the and whatnot, and how they get did what's open, general question about whitelist and whatnot. And it's this time I think there's stuff to the community, but in terms of that, but just like to make clear that right now it's open 91. The website is still an issue. Open. And if you go through slides, if you hit on servers and mods, the servers scheduled whitelist and days and application and
Jerry, I don't think we got any of that because you just started like lagging terribly throughout the entire thing. And it was basically just illegibly. Oh boy. Oh. Oh, I think think Doug TS might have fucked itself. Uh-oh. Technical difficulties. Technical difficulties. Right. Stop. I'm gonna stop the recording now. This will also make sure that I have been recording. And, yeah. We'll be back once, we reconnect and get everything sorted. Let's get back underway. Jerry, you're gonna have to say, like, all of that again. I'm so sorry.
Was it the entire thing, basically?
The entire
So you
thing,
started.
yeah.
Nice. Okay. All right. Get back to where I was. Should we wait a second for, or is this basically everyone that was in before? It looks.
It's
it
near
looks-
enough. It's near
Alright.
enough.
All right. Well, I'll read it out. So there are still multiple players a week that come into the Doug General asking questions about whitelist, when the server's open to the unwhitelisted players, and just general things about whitelist. So I think this was actually brought up last meeting, but I don't know if much was done or if anything was done. Sure, if anything was, I don't know. But it feels like we need to just make it clear to like everyone new to the community that the server is open 24/7. I feel like the website is still a pretty big issue in this. If you go to the website, there's like a slide at the top, and if you go to servers and mods, it says scheduled whitelist and open days. And if you go to join, it's just a little module that shows you where to apply for what is now membership. But like it says, it's kind of, I feel like it needs to like expressly say like apply to be a member of the community that can participate in things like CCE, be rostered for groups and stuff, like, and actually say exactly what being a member in the community means without saying whitelist, basically. So basically, I think it's just it'd be good to discuss what we can do to just make this clear so that people aren't confused. People, they know when they join the Discord or when they see it on the website that they can jump in and play right away. And
So per last meeting, everything that was sent to me that I could correct, as far as I'm aware, I did. Now, for something like the main site, that is out of my hands,
okay.
and I can only pass along the information to the people who can change that. And it just comes around to whenever they are available, or whenever they pay attention, they can change it. But as you type that out, or just said that to me, I went ahead and sent him another reminder in the hopes that he has the time to change it. Yeah, like the whitelist application responses, that's all been altered and updated, and we've even added an additional one for some stuff. And a couple other bits and bobs that we noticed from outdated articles from like 8 years ago have been updated to reflect all current stuff as best as possible. Yeah, for something like that, I can't change. None of us else here can change it. It's up to one person on his son's computer to hop on and change it.
Anyone else have anything to say on this? Otherwise, I feel like it's quite cut and dry, and we can move on to the next topic, which comes from Biscuits, who is not here. Oh, Solus, go ahead.
I have no idea how much any veterans of the community or existing people ever see it or look into it, or how much buy-in there is from new people coming in. But there is still the Daisy Underground Steam group that seems to exist that has well over 11,500 members, and it's keeping track of people like that there. I don't know who can actually edit that, but that actually does have partway through it, it states that it runs a whitelist schedule with open days still. I don't think I ended up mentioning that to anyone as well when I saw it last too, so that just makes the list as well as something to be looked at.
Yeah, I will definitely do that. I know I have no control over that, but I think I can maybe reach out to a guy that was with us several years ago, and maybe he can give me access to that. And I can just overhaul that.
Maybe that would be all there.
Right. Well, are we ready to move on to the next topic? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Alright, next topic comes from Biscuits again. I'll take a poke at the elephant in the room. Let's discuss why over the last 18 months a high majority of the antagonist/evil groups and characters have slowly either died for good or have very little motivation to play the server. Is it just a coincidence or something for concern? Well, it's no secret that Damn haven't been around as much. Though over the scope of the past 18 months, that's going back quite far. Though there's definitely been a lot of groups that have came and went. Though admittedly a lot of them I wouldn't even know where to start with, like their reasons for going and this and that and the other thing. Anyone else got any thoughts on this matter? I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a cue, Wolf, but if it is, then go ahead.
It's an A for answer.
Ah, yes.
I think there's a lot of misconception as to why people think the reason that bad guy groups are quote unquote stopping or having motivation. Some of it is to do with either in-game events or we've had concerns about like people not caring about stories or stopping stories or not pushing through with them. People being very I don't know how dogpiled on, even if they're a bad group or one of the few bad groups that are on the server that are technically supposed to be properly bad guy groups. But like I believe that a lot of misconception comes with the fact that it's just coincidence and normal DayZ burnout, I think, rather than an actual reasoning behind, an actual bigger reasoning behind it. Personally, like I don't know, I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, bad guys aren't playing anymore; they don't have motivation." I think a lot of the ones that I used to know about or hear about just got burned out of the game completely coincidentally around the same time, and that's why it doesn't happen anymore. When I did my group, the Masquerade, we basically stopped for multiple reasons. I mean, I made a Reddit post and put a little comment down below. I personally didn't think that the environment was right to play a group like that, especially if you're starting up, especially if you're new and you're not you're in it for basically just a role play and trying to be an antagonist on the server. If you don't get into that play style of just having, well, I might sound a little harsh, but having like the most power gamey way to play, just get yourself a fortress built up, have all the loot in the world, have a shit ton of people to play and loot constantly, and do all the raiding, all the fighting, all the stuff like that, then you can't really compete with the slew of dozens of good guy groups that basically just band together and just basically almost on OLC means just tie together and never really give bad guy groups chance to interact with you or roleplay with you. You'd see a bad guy group, you'll have heard something about them, that they rob people or they hurt people or they kill people or something like that, and you just immediately resort to looking for their base to raid it and KOSing them if you ever see them. That is kind of the part of the reason why we stopped. I can't speak for any other groups, but that's how it usually went for us.
Eggfoot.
Howdy. I don't have a huge point to make, but in my time on Doug, we've had this same kind of conversation before, except in regards to, there's not a lot of good guy groups anymore. I think it's kind of just the natural flow, ebb and flow of player like desires for play styles and what makes sense at the time, and we're just
Right.
at a big lull in villainous RP or antagonistic RP, and conversations like this will boost it. I'd say next while we'll see more bad guy groups popping up now that people think there's a lack, and it's just the natural flow of things. That's all.
Henry.
Let's just be honest, from someone who's in a evil group, hostile RP absolutely sucks. We used to go to bases and no one would come out, and we get told to eat a bag of dicks or just kill me now. It's pretty shitty, to be honest. From people who want to RP, they don't want to RP with evil groups. The only good RP we had was with Odyssey, and I had good interaction with Egbert as well. But other than that, it's been pretty shitty, to be honest.
Wolf.
I think that as much as I can personally complain about my bad guy group experience, still isn't too much complaining. I think as me trying to just explain or justify how our group went. I do believe that nowadays is Doug is in a better state to do bad guy groups with the new guidelines, with the new etiquettes, and with the new standards in place. I do believe that people will be more willing to go through out of their way to do interactions and actually give even hostile RP a little bit of a chance, because the norm back when we did Masquerade was you hear about our group and you just see us. Next time you see us, you're either going to shoot us or run away from us, which, it could be completely fine. That is within your rights to do it. But it can put off a lot of people who want to do hostile RP because of the fact that, for us at least, we never had goals to just run around and KOS people. Or just run around and just antagonize and kill people and shoot them in their bases. We've had so many moments where we were just around people's bases hoping that they would come out and we could like hold them up or interact with them like that. Fucking shooting people was the last course of action at every point we could have. But like, even though we wouldn't ever shoot first, if people heard that we would hold people up, then whenever they see anything that looks like us, they would immediately shoot that way. And we'd have interactions and people going up to us and even coming to our DMs and saying stuff like, no one's going to want to interact with you if you guys keep holding people up and stuff like that, which I think can off-put a lot of players.
I mean, I guess that might mirror the whole sentiment that was present on Doug for a while of like red is dead because of damn. Though in another kind of thing that kind of sprung to mind about like people being more burnt out recently is, at the end of the day, we're all playing DayZ, and new updates for DayZ are kind of a big draw for like people to come in, like new features, new fucking items, weapons, clothing, whatever else. And I don't think it's much of a secret that a lot of people found this recent patch 1.22 kind of underwhelming, and especially in the content side of things. Like, all it really did was add in some new bags. I mean, I personally like enjoy new clothing variety and all that stuff, but most people, they kind of interest in DayZ can ebb and flow, and it usually comes back when there's a new update. But if like that new update isn't really appealing to you, then you're not going to come back, most likely, or you're significantly much less likely to come back. Wolf, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, before I go ahead with what I wanted to say, I think that I don't know about that. Like, I don't think a lot of Doug players come back for DayZ updates personally, because I mean, what was last update even before this one? What, some knight armor and some like swords and stuff like that? I don't really think much of the Doug community comes back for that update because, oh, look, I can be a knight now and stuff like that. I don't think that really correlates too much. with people having motivation to play Doug. But I don't know, I could be wrong. A lot of you could have come back for that purpose, I suppose. But I don't really think it makes too much of a difference, personally. I think something like the NWAF update can definitely
Oh, yeah.
bring new players or old Doug players that aren't playing back. That could be something very interesting. But something like items, I don't think would be too much of a factor in it, personally. But as I was going to say, I think another reason why bad guy groups don't like hostile RP is that a shit ton of it is walking up to people's territories and then just finding all the people within their bases and behind four dials, and then all you could resort to is if you've been grinding for the past like week or two and you have explosives and try to bust in and have role play with them like that, or try to walk up to their wall and hopefully they will play along with the hostile RP and come outside and talk to you, or or I guess just actually just shooting people. And I think that puts off a lot of hostile role players because it's not fun to just walk up and talk to a wall, and then when they don't want to interact or play with you in one way or another, um, even like to schedule a meet and speak elsewhere or some shit like that, it's going to be you have to shoot them or they're going to start shooting at you, and then that's all the interaction you can have with this group. And once you shoot them once, they'll never try to interact with you ever again. That is what the role play will be for your group with this other group, and it will never change because nobody wants to play along, and everyone wants to be safe and cozy and not actually give hostile RP a chance, which I think is a little sad because roleplay should include be willing to do anything and taking an L. I know like a lot of players don't like to hear that, but you're never going to have hostile RP if you don't want to play with it and don't want to give it any second thought or anything like that. It's just going to be, oh, these groups, they're just assholes. They just come and shoot us. Well, yeah, they can't do anything else with you. You're not giving them the chance to do anything else with you.
Hostile RP, it's to a lot of the time you actually kind of need to, as someone that tries to give hostile RP, you kind of need to stick your neck out, essentially. Like, the amount of times we've had in Dam where we try and hold up someone, and like this, chances are we wouldn't have taken fucking shit from this person. We just like pat them down, like scare them shitless a bit, and then fucking send them waddling away with their tail between their legs. But the amount of times people just think, I guess I could maybe like pull out this Makarov I've got in my pants and like headshot one of these guys before they mow me down. So they'll just, and it really sours it sours an interaction where you could have otherwise had like a pretty good time. Or of course, yeah, as was mentioned before, oh, just kill me, bro. Just, I know you're gonna kill me. Just get it over with, bro. Just kill me. Just shoot me. It's never fun. Runa, you're next.
Okay, I'm fairly new to Doug, but my group has done some hostile RP, and I would agree that it can be really frustrating that people don't want to play along with it. Like when you kidnap somebody, generally they like shut down, give you short responses. You know, they just, a lot of people don't want to play along, and I know there's people who do. And I think a lot of the problem is, I think for people is they don't like to feel, people are prideful and they don't like to feel humiliated. So that's why people aren't coming out of their bases. I don't know what to do about that, right? People are prideful. They don't want to go out there and there's like 5 of you and 1 or 2 of them and just have to deal with whatever you do. So I don't blame them for staying in their bases. My bigger issue is the people you do run into out and about. They can't hide in a base, and you knock them out and you tie them up, and they just don't play along. Like I said, they give short responses. They act just like they're annoyed the whole time, like they don't want to RP with you. So I guess that's all I really have to say.
Wolf.
Yeah, I'd just like to add on to the point, another point, while why people are getting burnt out of hostile RP is the fact that DayZ as a game makes you want to be in the power position, makes you want to not put yourself out in the line of sight most of the time, because that's a stupid thing to do in most occasions. As you're doing a hostile group, you have to do that. You have to do stupid things that you would never do in the realm of your DayZ gameplay. You need to stick your neck out, as someone previously said, and walk up to this person's base, knowing full well that if they heard about you, or if they've seen you before, if you've held them up before, that they're gonna immediately shoot you as you're walking up to it, or like actually going through territory that you're not meant to be in, completely just trying to fucking find a way, basically find scraps of RP that you can potentially have and show hostility with, just so you can get anything in return, because a lot of it is never going to happen unless you're taking the dumbest risks that nobody would ever take, unless they really are just really trying to go out of their way and do the hostile RP personally. And I think that that's why a lot of people also don't do it, because it's most of the time you got to do really stupid stuff in order to get it, and most of the time you don't get it. All you get is a shot in the face and no word exchange from behind a gate or something like that. That's it. That's the end of my rant.
Rick, you're next.
Hi, folks. I saw there's a video from a year or two back that I often use to show people what Doug can be, and it's the video where I forget what they were called, but there's a news network and they end up interviewing Dam, and it's like over an hour. It's wonderful, and it's like really, really good RP. And I remember, I don't know, I wasn't around back then, so I don't know exactly what they're talking about, but they're referring to like a baby that was around, and then Dam ate the baby and all that. And it got me thinking that perhaps what Doug could benefit from would be custom items or things in the game that don't have game mechanics, that would be only perhaps story driven things, like a baby. I don't know how you would do that, but that would incentivize interactions between groups who are otherwise enemies. Because I hear what you guys are saying. It's hard as a hostile group to get good guy groups to come out of their base. But then, Runa's point stands, where I go, if I'm alone in my base and 5 members of a hostile group are outside, I have no incentive. Like, there's no reason for me to come out there. They're gonna do something bad to me. Whereas inside, I can benefit from my work, having built up defenses, and try to all RP through the wall for sure. But if there was, like, I don't know, if I had a unique item that for story reason they're after it somehow, and I have leverage and we can negotiate. And the reason I say that as something with no game mechanics is because anything with game mechanics spawns in the CLE, right? So like, you could come to a good guy base and be like, we absolutely want your, I don't know, your cannabis seeds. But in reality, you could just wait till you find those yourself. So yeah, that's just my idea. Perhaps having some more story-driven reasons that give people quests that would force more RP, or at least promote more RP.
Buck is next in queue.
There's a few ideas about like what hostile RP on Doug is, and then like what people want out of it and stuff. But I can say definitively for Darkest Midnight, there's a lot of Darkest Midnight members. Almost none of them are playing as Darkest Midnight. And the reasons for that go to the state of hostile RP on Doug and the state of the server, rather than, for instance, people being burnt out, or people not liking DayZ or DayZ updates, stuff like that. There's enough people in the group that very much enjoy the game still, and they still play the game. I'm one of them. I don't play as much as I used to, but I still play DayZ, still play Doug. A lot of the group still plays DayZ, still plays Doug, and to say that it is DayZ related and not specific issues is not exactly accurate. There's a lot of specific issues, many of them mentioned here, and to blame or to not try and solve the specific issues would be a little silly because the specific issues very much matter still. Trying to say it's a cycle or burnt out or something like that is not exactly true, in my opinion.
Anyone else have anything else they'd like to add to this in response to Bach, or new points from their point of view? Anything like that?
I guess I can start elaborating on some of the specific issues I see, I guess. If you were to watch any of Harvey's DayZ streams when, like, this winter, spring, and the start of the summer, he would stream maybe a few times a week. And you'd see the average, basically, 4 to 5 hour block of damn playtime. That was the average game session for the group. Obviously, people will play outside those hours, but usually when everybody gets together, has a good old time hanging out, playing DayZ, 4 to 5 hours around 8 EST to midnight EST kind of area. And the number and quality of the interactions during that would be probably averaging about 4 to 5 interactions, so about 1 interaction per hour. And you could basically bet that one person on that was going to leave a sour taste in our mouths. That's fine. Maybe some guy just going, "Oh, just kill me," or whatever. And whatever. Move on from that. Maybe another person just goes limp and like kind of just doesn't talk. Hey, whatever. It's fine. Happens, right? But then the likelihood that there's anything that's super like fun or cool was like not on a daily basis, but it was more like a weekly thing, which was a little bit like, at the end of the day, what are we doing when we're walking around just playing so much and there's not much happening, if that makes sense. Like, oh, okay, this week we got to talk to Vadim twice and it's fucking great or whatever. But that doesn't really justify a lot of the time playing the amount of hours required to get to the point where you're having a great time. And so the hostile RP play style, if you want to call it that, it involves sinking a lot of hours into the game, and the payoff is limited, or if it does happen, it's not guaranteed, and there's a bunch of asterisks. And then if you're trying to do a longer story, then obviously the chances of it going bad for whatever reason, for like say metagaming, or say you just start getting shot by the people around the story or whatever, like it doesn't, the juice isn't worth the squeeze at the end of the day for a lot of it. And so that's why you find people in Darkest Midnight not playing Damn, but still playing DayZ, because they would just, a lot of us just don't have the time these days to put into the amount of hours required to make a hostile group work.
Pretty much, yeah. Wolf, you're up.
I would like to ask, I suppose, the wider community in general. Say you've been in that situation where you have been in your base and you've been approached by a hostile group asking you to come out, asking you to do something, asking you to do like a story, and then you say no because obviously I guess you could argue valuing your character's life, or you just don't want to go outside with these maniacs or other people that you don't know, because who knows what would happen, right? Even though that is the question, who knows what would happen to me, but I want to ask what would happen, what do you expect to happen if you don't do that? What would you expect to happen if you just stay inside, either shoot at the people, or because they get angry they shoot at you, or just having hostile interactions forever just by shooting on sight from then on? What exactly happens in that situation? Because I'm very curious. Do you guys think that's a story happening? Do you guys think that's something progressing? Do either of the groups get anything out of that interaction? I'm really curious to know.
Floor is open if people want to respond. Desync.
I can only speak from my personal experience, and this is coming from helping assist with 2 different community camps, so not locked off bases. And I can mainly give my opinions of my experiences with DAM, specifically whenever they would show up. And again, I really press that this is my personal opinion, and it was that majority of the time, it was just certain members or just a horde of them coming in. It was okay, it's time to endure like 15 minutes or more of just harassment to see what would happen from our side. I suppose it was just like poking and prodding and doing whatever possible to get somebody to either respond negatively or in like a hostile manner, which would result in majority of the time everybody dying, more so from the defending side and not the hostile side. And when that happens, like every couple of days or even less than that, sometimes even multiple times in a play session, like DAM or maybe another group will roll up and just come by to be, I guess, assholes. Not necessarily out of character, but in character, that's what DAM is. They want to shake stuff up. They want to rattle people's cages, right?
Yep.
But when it happens so frequently, and when you know that what the consequences is that it's just you going to be simply mowed down, because majority of the time that's what ended up happening, or to the point of which, if I refer to stuff in the past, it was goading a character to essentially perma over something as simple as like farming. It left a pretty bad taste in people's mouths. So it came down to the point for a lot of folks, myself included, it was more fun to escape the interaction than engaging with it, because we knew majority of the time what the outcome was going to be. And it was hard I know for myself, it was very hard for a lot of stuff to just sit there and take it, because you had to think about the rest of the people, not just yourself and your own ego or temper at the time. Because again, you would realize that, okay, well, if I were to pull the trigger right now, what's going to happen? It's going to be the next 2 weeks of just having to fight DAM. And fighting DAM is really, a lot of the time, not really fun. There are moments where, yes, it is a ton of fun, yes. But when it comes down to defending a place from them, it really isn't. But being out in the wild and going against them, like, hey, like let's say we're going to go meet with some folks over something, and partway through, oh shit, there's DAM on the horizon. That's great. But when it's running a camp and knowing that, like, oh well, at some point during the day, DAM are going to be showing up probably. And when they do, it's like, oh well, all right, here goes. That's pretty much, I can only speak again from my own experience. That's what it came down to. At first, like maybe back like years prior, a lot of fun. But when it's the same thing over and over throughout the years, it gets less and less fun. It kind of feels like that juice, like that whole metaphor of like squeezing and then getting the juice out. It just kind of feels like I've been juiced dry personally. And for me, it's avoiding the interaction is more fun, because I know that I don't have the information that you want probably, not going to be the best for the interaction probably, so it's probably best just break my leg and move on to somebody else more interesting.
Rick.
Thanks. I think I'll just kind of echo what Desync was saying in that I've only been around since March, so take it with a grain of salt. But I've never interacted, rather than saying like bad guy groups, I'll just say aggressive groups. I have never interacted with an aggressive group that was fewer than 4 people at a time, except 2 times. Once was the Wizards, who came and had excellent RP, and I was alone. They convinced me to come out, and it was great. It was clear they weren't there to KOS me. And another time was a solo person from an evil group who, as soon as my back was turned, they backstabbed me. So my experience has been that the aggressive groups travel in large numbers. They tend to corner people, and then for them, it sounds, what I'm hearing here is that the fun would be a really good back and forth. Whereas for me, that situation, similar to Desync, the only success for me there is surviving it and getting away. And usually that's impossible without maintaining my character's dignity. So what I would encourage, and like I myself, I very often run alone. So I'm trying not to be a hypocrite here in saying this, is that bad quote unquote or aggressive groups should send some of their members out as solos sometimes. Take the risk of being that aggressive when the power balance is not in your favor. And then you might get people be more open. If there's 2 of my people and 1 aggressive RPer, I will be way more willing to have a back and forth that might not result in anyone shooting each other, because I don't have to kind of completely submit to like 6 people with the best weaponry, whereas I'm just by myself. There's no way to win that when you're alone, right? Yeah, thank you.
Doc.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to touch a little bit back on what Desync had said. Specifically, I know you mentioned it just wasn't fun if, say, Darkest Midnight was ever raiding your base, very hard to deal with. I just like maybe throw out the fact, like when we had the RP and stuff that led to our clash with the 506 and everything, and we kind of had some agreed upon statues that both set up a little bit in character as well as out of character, and it was like, okay, we're gonna kind of keep things away from the main bases to avoid big raids, because obviously people are going to be sentimental about their bases, big groups. Obviously they put a lot of work into that, and I think out of character emotions can definitely get tied in when you see your home is getting destroyed. Whereas you mentioned when you'd run across them, like these things said, in the woods, out in the open and stuff like that, a lot of fun with those. It's it's not really one-sided as much too, because you don't have a base to be shooting from or getting attacked from. I don't know if that just like sprinkling a little bit of salt out of character to set some more things up for RP, just to make it more enjoyable for both sides, just to make sure, hey, this is supposed to be fun for either side. We don't want it to be just like you said, Desync, drained, being milked all the day, or the juice is squeezed out constantly. I don't know if that's something that is utilized quite a lot as far as setting up these. I know probably maybe even frowned upon, but setting up a lot of the stuff out of character prior, or just kind of naturally flowing with it, and then just reaching out, talking, figuring out how you want to settle it, what the goals are with the RP and stuff like that, and where it's going to lead, just to make sure that there's not, I don't know, misconceptions out of character about what the intentions were to begin with, and all of that too. But yeah, just wanted to toss that out there.
Wolf.
For me personally, it's a little bit concerning when you hear that people are worried about, like, oh, because of numbers or because of this, because of that, you just can't win in a certain situation. I don't necessarily think that's what the point in the server should be, just trying to win in an interaction, win in a fight, or whatever the hell is happening. So it's a little concerning hearing stuff like that, because at the end of the day, isn't the point to make a story and to expand upon it, not just win every time, not just never put yourself in harm's way or anything like that. There was also a discussion about why bad guy groups or aggressive groups travel in larger numbers. Well, because there was a hostile group or any one bad guy or anything gets sent out to enemy territory to discuss something or even talk, like even if he were to raise a white flag and try to negotiate stuff. In my personal experience, you will get permud surrounded by 9 people and nothing will come of it. That is what is going to happen. And that's why things don't work out in that way. That's why aggressive groups, in my opinion, don't send out one person at a time ever. Not to mention when we did Masquerade back in the first time, I'm not throwing any shade or anything, but uh, if you were to show up anywhere near groups that are allied or friendly with each other, and you were to even try to hold one of them up, there would be groups of all those factions starting to run towards that direction immediately. So it doesn't matter the numbers, you will just get swarmed, no roleplay will happen, and you will just be shot on sight. But that's just my experience with it.
Anyone else have anything else they'd like to add to this discussion?
Just a footnote that, I mean, that's exactly what happened to Guy, right? He was roaming around the West by himself and ended up getting, found by, I don't remember who, but then all of a sudden, a bunch of 506 shows up, or I think that's more or less how the story went. A bunch of people ended up showing up and he ended up getting permitted. And that was that, and nothing else happened from it. It happens. That's why hostile groups tend to run in bigger numbers when they go outside their territories, because you need to. Otherwise, you're going to get swarmed by whatever group you're going after or going to talk to, and every single one of their friends. It's like a dinner bell gets rung, and all of a sudden everyone knows where you are and everyone wants a piece of it.
Well, if we've got nothing else on this discussion, then Solus, Locke, go ahead.
Hi, cheers. I just want to point out, I think Xavier agreed to this as well, but I'd say I think some of the best promos, the coolest promos you can have is the people that you meet dynamically, right? Like if you have some sort of agreement with yourself to say, I'd perma to, let's say, the Dark Carnival, right, if they catch me. That's fair enough. But of course, being suddenly ganged up upon and being put in a situation, again, not naming any names or any specific permas, but where you feel that you're kind of forced or some sort of group pressured into a perma is, of course, not warranted, not any good, especially when it's not a situation that was set up in any sort of way.
Yeah, it certainly is nice when there's a lead up to it, rather than just like, oh, I got called by a bunch of people and now there's a bunch of witnesses to this, and there is that pressure that comes with it, whether people want it or not.
It definitely is. Also takes some sort of individual to actually stand up to that pressure, but like I can't blame anyone if there's a pack of like 20 people, witnessing it because they feel pressed into perma. Can't blame them.
Jerry, you're next.
Okay, I'm trying to keep up. Like you said, a bunch of people sent messages, but what Xavier said with the guy thing, it was I wasn't there or anything. I wasn't even 506 at the time, but there was more to it than the people who caught him catching him and then 506 showing up. It was like more to it than that, and to say it didn't lead to anything is, I mean, there was just a like 5 days ago or a week ago or whatever about, I mean, it definitely, his death did lead to a pretty cool thing. So I think that, I don't know. I just think there was more to it than that, and that's really all. Yeah.
Wolf.
Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna interject on this one because that duel, as far as I know, was almost like completely an out of character setup event, would something as cool as that have happened if it wasn't an OC setup event? And
Well,
that was months later.
it was months later, but I mean, I don't.
Well, it's
I guess what you mean by that, but I mean, Vadim challenged Justice in like in game, in character, and it was pretty cool. But that was like, but yeah.
That's fair.
just
I can understand people who are upset with stuff like that. There are a lot that I have known a couple people. I don't know how Guy feels about his execution personally. I've never really talked to him, but I've had almost a completely similar situation happen with one of my characters where I showed up and like I got caught by a group that was friendly to another group that I had previously shot, and then it's all of a sudden there's 3 people on you, then there's 5 people on you, then the other group magically shows up. I don't know how, but it shows up. There's like 3 groups with like 15 people surrounding you. Then you get 5 words of RP out of your mouth, and you get shot in your face, and then on top of that you get somebody write a story on the Reddit saying that your character is permad without ever asking whether or not I wish to perma that character or not. I found it very petty. I found it very unfair, and I don't understand why some people would want to immediately end the story like that without ever getting the chance to play along with the story or have it go anywhere.
Solus, you're up.
say I just wanted to kind of add context onto what Jerry was saying there. Ultimately, say it becoming an OOC event is largely irrelevant. Speaking with Ryan directly, it ultimately happened because the people involved with Guy's death, IC would not quit talking about Guy in disrespectful ways. It led Vadim's character to make it to the point where he couldn't handle just being around and existing alongside that without making a show of it and making the point. So that was definitely largely IC, and it built up, sure, a month after the death, but there was a lot of relationship stuff involved with Guy's death, and it not necessarily being as organic as it sounds, like him maybe being set up. There's a lot of stuff in the wind about how Guy died and how he chose to perma. So it's unfortunate. It always sucks when you see threads like that go away when you're maybe a character who can't involve themselves with that aspect of the story because you're so far away, because it's a big world in some cases like that. But there definitely was a lot to that for what it's worth.
Henry, you're next in queue.
Oh, that was quick. So obviously FL is not around at the minute, but we were at the beginning of the wipe. Some of us were playing, and there was I assume everyone's seen our faction item, the bikes and stuff. A group contacted the admins to make static bikes in Nagorno that destroyed or blown up or whatever. Nothing's come of it. Out of character, we know who it is. In character, we have no idea. There was no note. There was nothing. It just seems pointless. If you're not going to try and push something, just don't bother doing it. Or poke us out of character, say, look, we've done this. Can we try and push something here?
So that's incorrect. I just wanted to hop in.
Okay.
The issue with this is that it was a matter of the implementation of the changes. They had already done this stuff pre the wipe. Proper information stuff was all left behind, and we discussed this with your leader. And as far as I'm aware, everything was okay. It was just a matter of waiting for it to be implemented, the aftermath of what happened. And the agreement was 2 weeks to a month that will remain, and then stuff will be reverted to how it was. Yes, our RP was pushed with it, and stuff was left after the fact for you guys to go and find.
Okay, well, none of us have seen that at all. So if they want to continue it, maybe put something back, Or if not,
I would recommend reaching out to them and see what can be done about that.
yeah, we'll see. So,
But yeah, I'll share with you really quick if you don't mind.
yeah.
Or do you want me to make it public, or do you want me to send it to you directly?
Just send it to me directly.
Okay. This was the note they left behind.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you actually bring up something that's great that needs to be talked about, actually, that I almost pretty much forgot to bring up. Is we decided to, for the first time ever, make a in-world change based on an RP interaction or just an aftermath of what occurred in game. And I guess depending on how stuff goes, if people like this, we'd like to continue doing stuff in the vein of this for groups and factions. I guess that's something we'd like to talk to you guys about more so in the future. Is this something that people want to see?
I think that's a win-win. You get like some, I guess, tangible consequence in the world caused by your actions, even if it's just like a kind of small, like little cosmetic thing, like some damage on a building, something left, some rubble or something like that. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, Wolfie, like you had said, that's what it comes down to. Is I think we're still working out guidelines for it. I mean, there really is nothing right now for it. It just came down to I just asked Joe, and I think it was another guy who was like, "Hey, you guys okay with this?" And it came down to, "Yeah, we're fine with it."
Yeah, I think as long as people have anything interesting like that to bring up, whether or not you're from a faction or a group or just a solo, if something monumental happens, if something's that interesting, and you were to want to have like a little detail or a little map change or little environmental storytelling that would help bring that a little bit more to light and have more interesting things like that around, I think that you guys should feel free to reach out to a staff member and ask about that change. If it's within somebody else's territory, of course, you'd have to reach out to them as well to make sure they're okay with it. And I think that a lot of more things like that can be very interesting and help enhance RP and make it look like more stuff is more permanent in a sense. So I think it's really cool. I think more of that stuff should happen.
I'm sure nobody would mind. Can I show what happened to the location? Does anybody have problems with that at all?
Yeah, come on.
All right. So what happened was a certain group of folks showed up to their territory, and FL have bikes that are on the map dynamically that spawn every restart, but they also have a static amount that spawn in their main territory. These people decided to go to that territory, set up an explosive, and blow it up. The issue with it was a timing with the update to DayZ, as well as I wanted to add another mod to the server to allow removals of assets of the map to better sell the aftermath of the explosion, as well as just to clear stuff out for potential future stuff. But that stuff had issues with it, so it came down to the waiting was sadly pointless. So as soon as I could implement it, I did. So this is what I came up with for it. And in roughly probably another week or so, this stuff will be, maybe 1 to 2 weeks, the stuff will be removed and revert to how it was. But hopefully we can see an outcome come from this, as long as FL and the other party are able to talk in some form, get that ball rolling again. Again, if you want anybody to blame, I think the best person to point to would be me in the timely manner in which this was implemented. For that, I apologize.
Yeah, and this example is also emphasis on it is being because of the way it was agreed upon between the factions that it was happening and their territory and their faction items or faction map edit. The reason it's going to be reverted is because that was the agreed upon thing to do. If anyone would like to put forward any change like that, that would be more permanent, and if that's completely agreed upon and doable, then nothing's going to say that has to go away in like a week or two, kind of like this is. So keep that in mind if you guys want to have some cool stuff like this happening around the map for you.
I would prefer people directly reach out to me, and let's have both sides come and sit down, like in a TeamSpeak, and let's fully discuss what wants to be done with the situation. So make sure everybody is happy with it in the future, and everybody is more or less aware fully of what's going on. Because hearing that made me a little sad from Henry.
All right. If people have nothing else on this discussion, we can swing back to Solus, who's been waiting for their cue to be.
It's just a small thing that kind of fit there, and it's something people aren't really going to entertain either because and I don't think it has a place on Doug, but separate from the talking to a wall nonsense, it's a whole discussion on its own. Like I myself and my group have tried in the past and now to make an effort to interact with anyone outside the walls, even if we don't know their intentions, try to get out to do it. And lately that might be more so due to us not having everything built up anyway. But as a separate point to that, all about in the wild interactions, when you find people out and about like that, and we're more so upset with people's kind of etiquette, how they carry themselves, how they act like the game's over simply because they were caught, or that losing some items on their character is the end of the world, and they're just gonna decide that they're done playing that night, and they don't want to entertain you, or not entertain you, but like entertain the interaction to try to carry that on. What we're kind of asking for there, it's not like I would never touch the KOS rule, but should there be any type of valuing your life rule or any type of RP etiquette like that? There's been suggestions of putting the RP etiquette out there, like just trying to emphasize, especially to new players, that entering something where obviously you're going to get tied up and your pockets are being gone through, it doesn't mean that the game's over for you. On official, that usually means you're going to get baited or just killed right away anyway, or it doesn't matter what happens. On Doug, there is some type of expectation of interaction there, and how far do you want to advertise that to players? Like,
Wolf.
and that's it.
It's still, I think, up to discussion between the staff team when it comes to stuff like this, but we have touched up on a lot of similar topics, I believe, in the last few weeks, as well as preparing a kind of video for newer players and beginners, helping them out with etiquette, survival guide type of vibe to it. I think that idea is still being fleshed out from our part, and I believe we kind of agreed on making multiple videos for different sort of segments of such things, such as roleplay etiquette and things like that. We don't want to necessarily put a staple down and say that these are going to be things that you have to do or anything like that. It will just be guidelines and things that you could keep in mind if you want to I don't know, role play in a sense that a lot of seasoned Doug veterans do. But as far as that goes, I think it's still something that I think could be expanded upon past just having these videos that we're going to make eventually to written format somewhere, potentially on the subreddit, or even like posted somewhere on the Discord. I think Blake suggested it could be like a wiki thing, maybe. I don't know, but I've heard a lot of people on the Doug Discord mention this, as well as people saying it in the meeting discussion topics and stuff like that. And I think that most of us are willing to try to flesh something out like that. Maybe we we could like ask for some of your guys' help on that as well. If you guys have any points or any things when it comes to roleplay etiquette or behavior, or carrying yourself as a role player towards other people, and how you should interact in certain situations. If you have any opinions and ideas of stuff like that, write them down somewhere, send them to us, and we'll consider them to try to hopefully put them out in a fleshed out type of post, whether it's not in video form or in written form. But we're definitely interested in showing something like that to the community, giving at least new players some idea of what they could potentially do and how they can fit in better with the wider roleplay community of Doug.
Anyone else have any thoughts on this? I think the video is a good idea though. Just kind of set expectations. Well, if we are done with this topic, then we can move on to the next one. So, if you have anything else you want to speak about this topic, speak now or forever hold your peace. Alright, next topic comes from Mr. Jerry once again, if you'd like to take it away.
Yeah. One sec. Okay. So this whole thing is kind of around the TeamSpeak, and how at least previously, it's always been a requirement for becoming a faction was to be active on the TeamSpeak server. And I was just kind of saying that, I've noticed that, a lot of the newer groups were not using TeamSpeak and, assumed like, you're using Discord, which is what a lot of I know I did it when I earlier in Doug when I was in smaller group, but I think it should just be that we need to either enforce the whole TeamSpeak usage more if it's going to be a faction requirement, and if it's not be a requirement, I think that we should, just take it off entirely. I know there's also like you see a lot of groups when you're playing throughout the day have like one guy in their channel like muted, and I'm assuming I assume it's for like receiving pokes, sending pokes, but I feel like if you're gonna have one guy in there, you may as well just have everyone else in there communicating. I mean, obviously people just have different preferences. Discord is your people better, whatever. I actually like TeamSpeak, even though it's kind of ancient, but I guess it's just if it's going to be a requirement, let's make it a real requirement, and then if it's not, let's just get rid of it altogether.
Wolf, you're up.
I don't know about the argument if it's a better VoIP or whatever than Discord, but it is a standard here for factions and groups. I don't know if you guys have read them. I hope you have read them. The new group and faction guidelines 2023. They're pinned on the Reddit right now. Within them, in the what is expected of factions paragraph or like segment or whatever you want to call it, the factions must remain active on game server and TeamSpeak, interacting with those even outside of their usual social circles and friend groups. That's what it says. So you can definitely take that as a proper requirement, not a guideline, not a suggestion. If you want to be a faction, that is part of the thing you need to keep an eye on. You need to be active in the TeamSpeak, and that's about it. When it comes to this as well, since I think this is a good place and also a good time to bring the topic of the guidelines, the new ones at least, and the new applications that every group or faction needs to do by the end of the month. So if you guys have any questions about those, I believe now is a good time to air them out.
Buck, you're up.
I've heard that before, Wolf, and it wasn't enforced back then the first time I heard it, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't enforced the second time I heard it. And factions got the tier 4 while not using the Doug TS. So what's different this time? Is there like, because it was realistically just a suggestion previously. Is there any actual change there? Is there going to be stricter moderation? What's the plan?
I would personally like to say that we have a lot more eyes on what's happening in the TeamSpeak nowadays. I don't know how it was back then, but we have a decent amount of people that are willing to go through the length of moderating stuff like that, and keeping an eye on things. So I genuinely personally believe that it will be properly moderated this time around. I don't know how it was before. I wasn't on the staff team whatsoever, and I wasn't paying attention to that myself, but I'm personally very confident that this time around it will be moderated better.
All right, Rick, you're up.
Thank you. I guess the part of what Wolf said answers part of my question, but the next the next post was my question. Essentially, I didn't understand why TeamSpeak was considered a requirement for faction status. We were trying to figure that out internally. Obviously, on our end we use Discord for our group. We could use TeamSpeak. It seems like the way it's worded, it's encouraging interaction between people on TeamSpeak, but where that between groups, that is, where that gets a little confusing for me is the point of that to encourage community building through out of character interactions, because obviously what we're doing on a third party platform is not going to be considered in character. So I mean, I'm definitely one of the people who sometimes jumps in and is alone in our channel. That's usually when I'm the only one online, and I just figure, well, I don't know why I'm supposed to be on TeamSpeak, but I'll sit there in case somebody wants to talk to me, and I'm just gonna play while I'm there. So yeah, I'd appreciate more clarity as to the purpose of it, so that we can kind of figure out how to commit to that better.
Jerry, you're next in queue.
Before I start, I'll just say if anyone has an answer for Rick, they can go ahead and speak, but I don't. But
I don't know if I could say anything there, but one thing I would say from I don't know, I used to running servers in the past and things like that. The perspective, kind of seeing how it's been handled, it kind of tells the story. We used to be able to have like lower subscribe power, so you actually couldn't see people in some of the other people's private channels. There's a separate discussion on that. But the fact that any groups other than group 1 through 5 and then our private group 1 through 5 exist is a benefit given to us by the server. That's kind of the server, the Doug community, highlighting that our group exists and what they want out of us doing that. It's a transaction, us being there in those groups, or us having those faction channels below there, just being present at all, is supposed to show that the server is full and lived in, and there's no point to a bunch of hidden people being in those channels because that doesn't accomplish that either. But there's also a real meta threat. A lot of people are concerned that they may see how many people are in those channels as well. So they kind of, I'm guilty of that just the same. I'm one of the few that actually do. I'll stay in a channel muted and wait for someone to poke me if someone needs anything or they wanted to talk about something that happened before. But that seems to be where it all comes from, is like people, it's not just a platform to talk while you're playing the game. Like when it comes to why Doug wants you to use TeamSpeak, it's we've received a benefit from Doug and we need to kind of show that. Like we
I think a lot of the way that I view it. Oh, sorry, were you going?
Oh no, it was done, but I left the channel like a dumbass.
Okay. I don't. I can only personally explain the way I view it. At least I'm not too sure. I'm sure the admins will kick me in the butt if I'm wrong. But like, a lot of it is definitely we want to see the community interact with each other, both in game and out of character. We want people to be able to reach out to groups and factions that they've had interactions with, that they enjoyed interacting with, or even if they didn't enjoy interacting with them, to just have a discussion and have a way to be able to reach out to these people without needing to do that in game. It's not necessarily for, oh, if I want to stage something in game with them or do something in game with them, I'm gonna go into their open channel. It's more of a you want to be there and be open to talking to the rest of the people. At the end of the day, we're all a community, a gaming community. We need to be able to want to communicate with people both in game and out of character, and there should be a good separation between that as well. It's a nice way, I think, for people to be able to talk with you after they've had an interaction or after you've had anything with them.
If everyone's done, I'll take back my my queue spot. But So what I was gonna say, I definitely agree with Solus that it is good to it shows the community is alive if people hop in to TeamSpeak and they're new and they see, holy crap, there's a bunch of groups that are in their channels like this. It shows that the server is alive. Um, and I'm definitely for TeamSpeak, and I really do hope that, especially because Wolfie just clarified that it is a requirement for factionhood to be an active part of the TeamSpeak. I really like to see it used more. But I also, well, I did just say it makes us look alive. I'd also like to advocate for private channels again. I know that was a thing of the past, and what I said earlier is there's a lot of groups that have one person sit channel deafened or muted all day when you see them in game. There's 5 of them, so it's apparent they're in like a separate third party communication. And I'm not pointing fingers or saying that happens, but I mean, I'm pretty sure we all would agree it probably does happen where someone is in TeamSpeak and talking to their buddies in Discord and they can see, who's on, a little bit of TeamSpeak sniping. And I mean, it's always going to be a thing. I'm not saying everyone does it but it's a thing that happens, which sucks. But there's not really a way to stop it other than bringing back private channels, which I think would be nice. But that's really all I have to say about that.
Gem is next in queue. I see your little circle things lighting up, but I can't hear you. Unless Jim's communicating in Morse code. Alright, if anyone else has anything they'd like to add while Jim sorts out his mic issues.
If anyone were to have questions about the faction application process or the new guidelines as well, please do ask.
Yeah, if anyone has questions for the staff team, they are here. They are mortal. They are within our reach. I suppose we could go on to the final topic, Vadim's topic, and then we can swing back up to Gem once Gem fixes his mic stuff. Just just so we don't everything doesn't get held up. So, in that case, Vadim, who at least said he wasn't going to be here, changed the rules to rules and guidelines. Have the set of hardline enforced rules clearly spelled out, and then have another list of etiquette or guideline topics, things that are not strictly enforced or against the rules, but highly encouraged to enrich your experience as a newbie or even a veteran. For example, things related to KOS, usage of OOC comms, and saying things like server in-game, to name a few. If anyone has any further thoughts. If Rick has asked a question, I don't know if you want to vocalize it, Rick, or I think he's looking for staff response there.
I didn't want to take up too much time. I figured it was a probably easy answer, so I just typed it out.
So when the faction application processes will be due, it's going to be basically just for factions, because I don't believe that groups need to reapply. I think the staff team will correct me if I'm wrong, but the way we discussed it is groups can still stay, but you guys still need to, abide by the etiquettes, abide by what is required of groups if you want to stay that way, and you're immediately welcome to apply for a faction. So this isn't just factions that are currently factions need to reapply for their status. Groups can also immediately apply to become a faction. But you don't need to reapply for a group.
Go ahead, Rick.
Thank you. Thanks, Wolf. That clarifies it. So I guess I'm wondering if, for our group's sake, we would like to eventually apply for faction status, but we don't. Right now, I don't know. I don't think you guys would probably vote for that yet. We haven't been around long enough. But when you're saying existing groups are welcome to apply, if a group were to apply and get turned down, are they told, oh, these were the things that you need to improve on? Because if that's the case, it seems worthwhile. But otherwise, I think for us, we would just wait until we've established a more long-term presence. We don't want to waste the admin's time by applying if we're not ready.
We will
yes.
definitely. Sorry.
Yes, we would reach out to you and tell you what you need to improve upon if you are denied.
Yep.
Okay, thanks so much.
Test. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, geez, thank you. Okay, so my question was, and this may have been answered already when I was trying to figure this out, but I guess what exactly constitutes being active on TeamSpeak? I mean, I know there's a lot of talk of like joining the channel and then immediately muting. What is the, what level of activity are we looking for faction status?
Jerry, if that's you looking to answer.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not an admin or a moderator or anything, but I'm assuming that what activity would be is that you are using TeamSpeak with your group to communicate. Thanks, Justice. That you're using TeamSpeak with your group to communicate, opposed to say Discord. Like it's your main source of out of game communication. But if I'm wrong, please correct me, moderators.
I would like to say the same. I would definitely prefer groups actually playing and talking in the TeamSpeak and being active in their own channels or in the private channels or wherever you can find space here, rather than just having one representative of your group stay AFK in your channel while the rest of you are on Discord, just so you can have someone to be poked or to look at the channels or whatever you need. I think we would prefer to have most of you guys actually active in the TeamSpeak as a group, as a whole, rather than just sending one person down there. The staff team can correct me if I'm wrong, of course.
Any further comments, questions?
The private channels thing, I believe, can definitely be discussed between the staff team, unless they have a certain stance they're willing to straight up say right now, like, oh, they're never coming back or anything like that. Then I believe then we can discuss it at least and see how the community and us feel about it.
Lock channels will always be a thing for folks, but private channels, as far as we're concerned, I mean, for the foreseeable future, they're not coming back.
There you go.
Well, there you go. I suppose Eggfoot does bring up a good point. There is the argument that, like, if there's groups that say don't use make a point of not using OOC comms, I don't think they should be penalized for that. If they just want to communicate exclusively in game, I don't think they should be like. I think their impact on the server should still be recognized, and I don't think they should be held back from being recognized as a faction and getting armbands and blah 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 just because like they don't use comms. Though that seems like that's probably more of a case by case, individual basis sort of thing.
I think more or less, if you want to keep stuff as in character or in game as possible, I think we're completely fine with that. But at the very least, we still want to see in some form at a game a way to contact you, or at least a way, again, just to reach out and have other people communicate if it's needed.
Yeah,
We
it's
still-
not
we
just
still
about
wanna
the
see
staff
updates.
team. It's not just about the staff team being able to reach out to you guys. It's also other community members and other groups having the open window to do so.
Jerry, go ahead.
If you don't mind me just asking, this is just directed to anyone, the mod or admin team, like, why we're like against hidden channels. It feels like it's a good, like, because as long as you can see everyone in the team speak, I mean, there are people who are going to use that to their advantage, and there's nothing that anyone can do to stop them. But I feel, in my opinion, it feels like hidden channels would be a good
It's
addition.
because
but that's
everybody
just me.
used them and would not leave them. So when we had a new member join the TeamSpeak, the server looked like there were 0 people in it. Sure, there were a handful that would use open channels, but majority of people would never do that. Or as well, they would be hidden in the channel and then be muted and be by themselves because they were in another Discord or another TeamSpeak, just so staff only could reach out to them. And we weren't interested in seeing that any further.
All right, thank you for the answer.
Right. Do people have any further questions, concerns, things they want to bring up about this topic? If not, then we can move on to the final topic of this meeting. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Right. Final topic comes from Vadim. Read it out earlier, but I'll go through it again, just in case anyone wasn't here, etc. Change the rules to rules and guidelines. Have the set of hardline enforced rules clearly spelled out, and then have another list of etiquette or guideline topics. Things that are not strictly enforced or against the rules, but highly encouraged to enrich your experience as a newbie or even a veteran. For example, things relating to KOS, the usage of OOC comms, and saying things like server in-game, etc.
I think this falls into a topic we were discussing earlier when it comes to spelling out some of the etiquette, spelling out some of the standards, guidelines, and rules on the side. I do believe that we're looking to improve platforms where we can put those things down. So, as I said earlier, we are trying to have something when it comes to etiquette and roleplay stuff and interacting stuff and OC comes, all that type of stuff. We're trying to find the best format in which to present it towards the community, and something like this, I think, should be expected to come out sometime soon.
If I could interject really quick.
Go ahead.
I think the route that you, Fox, and Wolf, and the other folk are doing is great for it, but I don't think having rules and etiquette side by side is the best way going forward, because no matter how direct you are in saying that these are the rules and these are things that are being enforced, and etiquette, this is things that we hope that you will reference and use in your for like your advantage of heading in game, and just keeping that in mind, people are going to look at that and think, oh, that's part of the rules as well.
Yeah,
I
they're
need to
since
be
they're in the
operating
same
like this.
place, yeah.
Yeah, but I think
Yeah.
the media into which you guys are doing is a way better direction and can be potentially even better seen by
As
people
long as
who aren't
it's-
even a part of this community.
Yeah, as long as it's very well spelled out what's what, have a decent format for it, which again, we're trying to figure it out, we're trying to do it. A lot of the staff team is trying to help out with that as well. So I believe you should expect something like that. Not exactly gonna be like a list of here are the rules and here are the etiquettes, side by side, as Decent said, but there will be something that basically serves the same purpose, but in like a more productive way.
Alright, well, anyone have anything else they'd like to add on to that topic? Or even just anything else they'd like to bring up, anything that they want to discuss, anything they want to ask the admins, the moderators, etc. Because if not, then I think you will all be released. So speak now, queue up, whatever you feel like doing, if you have anything else to say. If not, then I think you are all dismissed. Oh, Justice, go ahead.
Hey, so one of my things I'd like to just have kind of reiterated to me a little more is the whole zerging etiquette that is apparently a problem nowadays. It never was an issue in the past whenever, like, groups like DAM was running around really heavy, and it's never been an issue with us. And seems like here lately, like, it's an issue now, and I don't see why it's an issue for a group like ours if we're running around real heavy whenever we're a military style group, instead of running around and getting caught with only two people. It just didn't really make sense to me, and I was hoping staff could probably clear it up for me so I can understand this etiquette that we're needing to follow.
Because the community said it was a problem. We had been seeing it going on for probably the past 2 years or so. It was being brought up every once in a bit, more often than not, that groups were just simply running too deep. So for the other side in the interaction, whether it be peaceful or hostile, people were always having the problem of the bigger group always having the upper hand. Again, be it if they have good intentions or bad intentions, it was always going to sway in their favor. And that's why we finally have decided to step in and keep an eye on it, and if need be, break it up if we see it going on.
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to get some clarity to it. So is that like just a faction etiquette or a group etiquette too?
It's going to be for anybody that we see doing it, basically. Be it faction, group, or just a group of randoms. Not so much more. Again, it's maybe let me quickly reword that. If it's a random group of people, maybe we won't have an issue with it. But again, it's more so a case by case basis. We're keeping an eye on when it happens. We're making note of it.
It's very situational when it comes to stuff like that. At the end of the day, you don't need a 7-man group running around, or 8-man or 9-man, or however many people running around just doing loot runs together, not seeking out any roleplay, not seeking out anything specific. So when it comes to it is, as Decent said, it's case by case. It's not always going to be there are no hard limits that we're going to set. There's nothing like that. It's just, think about it this way: is what I'm doing currently justified and proportionate to how many people are with me right now? Do I need a full squad of people running around looting? Stuff like that.
Okay, so let's say like there's not a group really on the server that likes, my group. Would that be fair enough for us to run around heavy because we get shot at by 90% of the groups? I'm just trying to figure out where I can set my guys a limit, or where I can say no, that's understandable because we're more than likely going to meet hostile reactions. I mean, because we've went to Merrymen not long ago, and we had an interaction with them. We held them up, tied them up, all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's not like whenever we go out heavy, we're just shooting everybody we see. We're trying to have interaction with them.
Yeah. So if as an example, let's say you're going to you're 506, you're going to, I don't know what group is there, you're going to Merryman, right? And you already kind of in character know the people, you know how many people you can expect up there, right? If you're going to Merryman and you know the last time you've seen them there was 10 of them, then it would be stupid for you to not take as many people. Try to be proportionate to what you're doing and try to match the numbers to the people that you would be seeing or interacting with.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, the reason why we started running around so heavy is because, it made it equal whenever we'd fight against Dam, pretty much. Because I mean, it made for a good firefight whenever we'd run into Dam, and it was, 7 versus 7 at that point. So we started making sure whenever we ran around like that, we were very prepared for anything like that because we're at war with Dam, and Dam being one of the other biggest factions on the server, we was always trying to stay prepared. I mean, I know they haven't been playing that much as of recently, but it was still one of those things that we didn't know for sure. So we always just stayed, try to stay heavy with the people.
Yeah. So I think the way most people would like to look at it is, let's say Dan were still playing and you guys wanted to have a fight with him or whatever, right? If you're going all the way over to Gorka or within that vague direction, you're expecting to see Dam and they're around that area, then you can obviously bring the heavy forces to deal with the situation. But if you're going to north up to Sinistock or down the coast, just and bringing like 10 people because maybe just in case we'll see Dam somewhere, then I wouldn't say that's a proportionate way to look at it personally.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with it, to an extent, but I mean, hell, Fox knows Dan was like we was running into each other all over the place. I mean, yeah, I'd understand going to Gorka. We would 100% know we would more than likely run into them, but we've ran into them everywhere in the past. So I mean, I was just trying to get like a clear answer for it. So thank you
Uh,
for that.
as I would like to look at it, even if Dam were to come back right now and play, they would be held to the same standards as you guys and everybody else, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
if you were going to expect Dam as you would have seen him all over the place back when you were fighting them, then you can expect to see them in similar or exact numbers as you guys are running nowadays because of the new etiquette and the quote unquote limits. So it would be a proportionate fight at the very least. I wouldn't worry about you guys worrying about the Zerging rule and only taking a handful of guys and then being ran up on by 9 damn people that are there for no reason but to like loot around or look for solos or groups to just mess with in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
Also, for sorry for the because Vrisko's asking in the thing, for raids, I think the way we've worded this type of stuff is you got to know who you're raiding, because let's say you're raiding 506, right? You know their numbers, let's say, and you are expected to either bring as many numbers or just a little bit above it, whatever you think would work, right? But let's say you are a group that has 10 members, right? And you're raiding these people who have never been seen more than 3 people around, and they have this little shed somewhere in the middle of nowhere. You don't need to bring all 10 people to raid those people. Bring a couple, a little bit more than what they have. You're not going to like set yourself up for failure, but you're not going to set yourself up to completely fuck over them with like 10 times the numbers. When it comes to when it comes to um, when it comes to defending raids, however, if you're the one defending, if you're being raided, then you're allowed to use OOC comms to alert your group only, not other groups. Not don't call over your neighbors or something like that via OOC comms. Alert your group, and literally anybody that can be online from your group is allowed to be online and get online for that. You don't have a limit when you're defending a raid. I don't know if there's any other questions when it comes to raiding, but feel free to ask.
If not, Jerry is next in queue.
I was just gonna kind of follow up with Justice's. I'm pretty sure if on the etiquette guideline thing, it says like without a valid RP reason that they can have more than the set 4. So like I guess I just kind of want to ask what constitutes as a valid RP reason, because I think about a month ago we had a group of 5 or 6 that went to Northwest Airfield shortly after we'd had a couple encounters with the NFA. So and one of the admins joined and told us that we should separate because we have too many people just for like looting Northwest. Where in reality we were kind of there looking for we were kind of expecting a scrap. We didn't get one. We didn't find anyone. So I guess I was just more asking like what validates kind of an RP reason to be roaming with more than 4.
It is super situational, I would assume, right? If you guys are to be approached that way by an admin or any staff team member, and you guys were to explain stuff, it would be a lot more lenient when it comes to stuff like that. We're not, again, as Ian said in the chat, we're not gonna like provide specific hard set rules when it comes to stuff like this. A lot of it is very situational. But it's like I don't know, if you're going to NWAF, sure, there might be a group there might not be a group there. Did you go to NWAF to loot NWAF, or did you go to NWAF to fight or raid NFA, right? Did you just take a lot of members because maybe NFA would have been there while you're looting NWAF, or did you go there specifically to interact with NFA?
It was going there to look for them and then realizing no one was there, so we just looted it. But
Well, at that point, you would kind of be expected to realize they're not there. We don't need 6 people or however many people you were. I don't know, and then just split off. It's very situational. You guys don't need to worry too much about it. Like, you're not immediately going to be hit with a strike or like a demotion or anything as severe. It's just if you were to be doing that, have a decent enough valid reason. If you're approached by an admin for that, then just explain it, and odds are you'll be fine if you have like a decently valid reason. It doesn't have to be anything out of the ordinary, anything too crazy.
Rick is next in queue.
Thank you. I just wanted to chime in on that and just provide a perspective maybe that comes from some newer players or who are more solo. So in our territory, we have our group, but we also have a lot of residents who are not group members who live sort of under our protection or in our collaboration with us. And we obviously get a lot of interaction and information from them about their experience. A lot of them are new. Some of them have been around for a long time, but they're mostly solo players. And when you're talking about the Zerging rule, what I heard Justice say was, well, we have to be in a big group often because a lot of people shoot at us. So what I hear from a lot of solo players is that when they encounter large groups, the encounter cannot go in a favor that's positive for them. It's basically a submit and kind of not really enjoy it kind of situation, which then, whether it's in character or not, they develop kind of an enmity towards whatever group that was. So now they're a lot more likely to shoot at those people if they see them. So it's kind of like a self-feeding situation, right? It's like solo players get dominated by like groups of 5, 6, 7, 10, whatever. They get pissed off, and then later they shoot, which then makes those groups feel like they have to be in big numbers to be safe. So I'm just bringing that because I hear it a lot from solo kind of players, and it might help to understand why it's how we can think and put ourselves in their shoes.
It's always good to, as a big group, consider the fun of other players when you're holding them up, especially if you're overpowering with numbers or they have nothing to really be able to do against you. Give them something, It's not, don't just give them a bullet with no RP or anything like that. If you gotta kill them, you gotta kill them. That's fine, but give them a little bit of something. It's at the end of the day, it's meant to be. We still want our interactions to be as organic as possible. So we can't exactly say, oh, don't shoot solos or anything like that. It's completely up to you.
Solus, you're next up.
It's really important, kind of just focusing more on how Rick phrases the point there. The the idea you want more people so you don't lose a possible interaction you see coming is something that should be generally frowned upon. There's context, there's nuance. That's a whole discussion to have, and it's important. But if we go way back to when Rick first mentioned this before the actual main topic came up, he personally didn't bring up not having enough people and possibly losing an interaction. He said the solo's only goal is to survive that interaction with their dignity intact, which is a very different bar. And that's actually a very good point for a lot of the time there, because when you run into situations like this, sure, you're not going to have the upper hand. And if you don't get away, that's you have to kind of play your part and do the thing. The way kind of Desync was saying how they had to submit most times in the community camp. Like you can try to play along with it and make it an interaction and do something big like that. But ultimately that is the case, is you're not going to survive that without your dignity intact. You're going to be the person that didn't rise up and say anything about you and your friends being picked on for 20 minutes straight, so you don't try to anger the beast or whoever's there causing trouble in different circumstances. So while winning and losing is really important and it phrases a lot of the conversations we have here, like that kind of became part of it too, is Rick wants to be able to still see himself as Rick or be immersed as who he thinks his character would be after that, which ultimately shouldn't have to be because he's got walls. It should be because you can actually kind of step out and talk to those people. But that's it.
Ortiz, you are next.
I get where you're coming from because I've been on the side of the bully and the bully getting bullied. I guess sometimes it's just nice to and I've said this even on stream every now and then. Like it's just like it's okay to play the fear up and play. Oh my god, I don't want to fucking die. Please, like. So everybody always wants to be the big puffy chested like king, and it's like you're surrounded. You know what I mean? You got to deal with what's in front of you. Beg for your life. Do what you got to do. You know what I mean? Like, not everything has to be. Oh, I gotta. I'll leave without my dignity. I have sat there and pretended to cry my eyes out and like begged for my life. So people just don't want to play that part. And hey, give the bad guys that dub every now and then, whatever. Just it's okay to just do that. And hey, they'll leave and say, hey, you know what? That motherfucker was cool. He went for it and he did this. So everybody always wants to be this big badass, or even just I don't have to submit, whatever. We used to have even some, I think, the Merrymen come by, and we had 80 all lined up, and somebody's sitting there throwing farts, and somebody's saying, "I'm not going to do nothing." It's like you're lined up against a wall right now. You just lost 2 people, and you just keep running your mouths. Like, do you not give a shit? And I'm not hating on you guys because I love you fucking guys, but it's just moments of those of like, hey, it's okay to, I don't want to say be a little bitch, but like just care about your life so much you don't care what happens to you, other than like take what you want, just get out of here, man. Like I don't want to fucking die, like whatever. That's just my point and my 2 cents. I've been on both sides. I've been in DEM, I've been in the community camps, I've been beat up and bruised, and I've been this bully, and it is bullying basically. So it's just like it's okay, Rant over. Sorry.
Box.
Anyone else have anything they would like to add? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Fucking e-guns. Oh, Eggfoot. Go ahead.
In interactions like that, there is a certain disjointedness from reality because everyone has gotten shot multiple times and survived. People aren't going to cry and whimper because we've all been through the shit in the apocalypse, I think. It is really good, though, when someone is a little bitch, as it was said.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's fine though. But yeah, no, everyone wants to feel cool. We're trying to play a character. We're trying to say something. We're not going to be like, I'm a little bitch boy who's going to be scared of zombies and get held up all the time. No one wants to play that, you know. And it's just the natural human condition of wanting to be like to win quotation marks and do better and come away feeling like you've put something good out there and achieved something being cool.
Yeah, it's up to you guys to be open to anything when it comes to both being the more or less quote unquote hard ass character or like the hero of the story all the time, or actually being down to being held up, being beaten up, being humiliated, stuff like that. All that type of stuff can um, eventually lead to cooler story happening. But Daisy is a rough environment for roleplay, especially when it's not quote unquote within the rules and enforced. So obviously there will be the Daisy mentality of not wanting to be held up, not wanting to lose your gear, not wanting to take an L for once. But I personally believe that's something everybody in here should forget about and just think about the story, think about the consequences, and think about it in the long term.
Yeah, I mean we've all been like shot. We've all been like shot, stabbed, beaten, killed, for lack of a better word. But like I just see that as game mechanics, like Daisy's game mechanics. I don't really like. I'm not gonna have my character acknowledge that I've been like killed like 20, 40, 100 times. Like for me, like it just if I have like a rifle shoved in my face, if I'm like slashed, stabbed, beaten, whatever, I'd try to react like as you would as someone that like doesn't want to fucking die. More or less, that's the way I see it. Yes, shot with a crossbow. But yeah, it's a tricky thing, and obviously like the game definitely has actually it was a YY. It was meant to be a YY, but you did a 360 before it. Are you heard of
Greg
double
is supposed
YY?
to be an idiot, though. That fit.
Perhaps. Though, anyone else have anything they'd like to bring up? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Oh, Doc.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I hope everybody's enjoying the game and having a great week. And I think time in this community so far, I've really, really enjoyed it. So I wanted to thank everybody, though.
Thank you.
It's always nice
Yes,
to see new faces integrating into the community and getting into the meetings and stuff like that.
I would really like to emphasize, as we're probably going to end this off anyway soon, when it comes to any questions for anything, whether it's etiquette, whether it's rules, whether it's the guidelines or the faction applications or anything that's needed to be asked, just reach out to any of us, and we're more than happily gonna elaborate on anything you need. So even if you're like we mentioned before, as if you're like a new group and don't think you have too much to bring to the table yet, it's still worth asking. It's still worth putting out that application and then getting the reply and the elaboration on what you can do to improve to get to that faction and stuff like that. So just keep in mind all the admins and the moderators were open to getting DM'd and being asked any questions, whether or not it's in a community meeting, in a voice chat, in staff support, or just by DMs. Feel free to ask.
Just to pile
Ortiz.
on what
Yep.
Wolf is saying, same thing. Like, I don't know, whatever happened with previous staff people, whatever. We have been very proactive on the side. Like Wolf, Oz, Joe. I've been working a lot lately, so I haven't been able to do as much. But them boys have been putting in work. So please, utilize us. They are proactive. They're here. They have that heart, and I couldn't be more proud of my team.
Aw.
Ooh.
Except for that, he's a slurper. Never mind.
Damn.
Don't out me like that, then.
You outed yourself. It just happened on the mic.
No one would have noticed.
What? Well, that's immortalized forever. That's going to be how this community meeting ends. That's going to be the last thing people hear before the
Wolf
recording cuts.
slurper.
Don't repeat it. What the hell?
That is your legacy.
I'll overlay it at the end of the recording a few times.
No.
Yeah, adding it to my soundboard
All right.
now.
You have a good.
All right.
See y'all.
You
Thanks
are
for
all
coming.
dismissed. See you.
Cheers.
Take care.
Goodbye.